Okay, in the last VOD, we introduced to a topic which for some people was very chadash and actually in the science world also took a little bit of adjustment because it can sound like something a little bit kooky, the fact that even with imagination or visualization, we're able to actually hardwire things in our brain. But the truth is, the minute we walk into neuroscience, it should not only be something which is not surprising at all, it should be something which is totally natural. Meaning, if we understand that that's essentially what memories are. Meaning, memories, when we remember things, and the way we remember things, and obviously we can't talk about that now, and it's beyond now, but essentially what memories are also connections in our mind of neurons which come from thought and from thinking and from awareness. Okay, so the fact that we can actually change the plasticity of our brain through thinking, okay, is not something which should surprise us at all. And even if it surprises us or is different for us when we talk about actions and creating action patterns, okay, remember when we talk about habits, we're all talking about habits of thoughts, and we're also talking about habits of emotions. So the fact that thinking or imagining certain thoughts can affect thoughts, that shouldn't be surprising for us in any way. Okay? I'm going to now introduce us to something which is slightly different type of cue, and it's something which, I'll be honest, is a much bigger topic, but I must bring it up now, okay? And it's something which, both in class or in VOD, we've definitely heard about it before, because I've spoken about it before, okay? And I'm going to really just touch on it, but it's a huge, immensely important issue, and it's a slightly different model of cue than the cues we've been speaking about until now. Until now, the model we've been working on has always been a linear model. Okay, at least on a visual level, we have one thing which then sparks off another thing, which sparks off another thing, and sparks off another thing. And it's a sort of cause and effect type of pattern. Okay? I'm going to want to introduce to another type of model, okay, which we know from a different type of project which I've had, which is on memory, okay, which is that our synapses are not just lined up one after another. Each synapse is multi-connected to a lot of things. And if we remember from different settings, the concept or the introduction of the concept called a verbox, which is something which we made up, okay, but where instead of just talking about one thing connected to another thing, we talk about a whole set of things which are interconnected, okay, that we have sort of a relationship between a whole number of things, a whole range of things, okay. I'm going to call this for now the neuroscience of Hashkafa, okay, which is going to bump into also the neuroscience of identity. Okay, scientifically, it might be related to what we call cultural neuroscience. Okay, but what it means is essentially, okay, that it's not necessarily that one specific action or one specific scenario touches off something else, as much as the fact that internally, I have a whole number of things which are connected together. Okay, if we think about it, when I say neuroscience of Hashkafa, it means that intuitively, okay, I don't just assume cognitively in my mind and in my thoughts that one thing goes with another thing, but automatically in my mind, when I associate a certain type of dress with a type of approach, a certain type of feeling, a certain type of relationship to different type of things, okay, which sometimes fit, sometimes don't fit. Sometimes they're logical, sometimes they're just experiential. They're not necessarily mukhrach. They don't have to be. There's nothing intrinsic in the hashkafa, which is indicative of something, but it's the way that I've experienced it, so I attach them together. Okay? And therefore, when I walk into this box, into this hashkafa, into this entire cultural setting, okay? So the minute I enter in through one of the doors, whether it's through clothes, whether it's through something I've read, right now I'm in a certain mode, and when I say it's not just hashkafa, okay, this is also going to be identity, okay? When I'm in a certain zone, we're going to see how this is so important, okay? When I'm in a certain zone, so there are all sorts of things which are going to relate, all sorts of actions and feelings and thoughts which are automatically going to be sparked because I'm in a certain zone, when I dress a certain way, when I'm in a certain type of place, Okay, it doesn't just spark off one thing; it sparks off an entire set. Okay, as on the Torah side, okay, I like to. There's one example I'll give, and then on the Hashkafa side, there's one example I'll give. On the Torah side, this is attached to the vert which we always give on Sfiras HaOmer in terms of the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva and us losing Talmidei Rabbi Akiva during Sfiras HaOmer because of what Chazal say was lo nagu kavod zelazeh. Okay, when we say that they were lo nagu kavod zelazeh, I can't go into the whole Torah here, but it's not necessarily saying that they were punished, that they were chayiv misa because of lo nagu kavod zelazeh. But there was a certain, because of the fact that Rov Talmidim, or almost all Talmidim, had now created an association that a Talmud Chacham is not nohed kavod zelazeh. Okay, that in this cultural box, when someone sees a Talmud Chacham, they now assume that it comes together. When I say assume, that doesn't mean here. Well, it means in the mind. It doesn't mean necessarily they think that. They might realize that Chazal say that Rabbi Akiva taught us that about Klal Gadol Batorah is a haftal reacha kamocha. But what they've learned to associate together is when they see a Talmud Chacham, they are not we assume that they're not noeg kavod zelazeh, or when I become a Talmud Chacham, automatically I start having certain type of habits which are not noeg zebazeh, not because I want to, but because automatically that comes together. So the model, the hashkafa, the identity of a Talmud Chacham now got wrapped up with lolin hog kavod zelazeh. Okay, therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu came in and said we need to recreate the model. It wasn't necessarily, and I don't want to get into the machshava philosophical side of can we punish someone for this type of piece that we have in other places also in Torah, okay, possibly by nadav v'aviu by certain Rishonim. Okay, but here we have a model where HaKadosh Baruch Hu said we have to start over and recreate the model of what a Talmud Chacham is, that it no longer is connected, neurologically, connected and associated with a lack of kavod zeh b'zeh. Okay? In terms of the creation of Avodah, and this we'll see coming in certain ways, I call it the Chabad phenomena. Okay? Of how a person who's Chabad can walk into a certain setting and be totally different and not be affected because there are certain actions which other people do which doesn't affect them because it's not included in their identity. They have an identity which, okay, we're going to have to, this is something which we'll know better when you get into the next piece, into the other pieces of changing a habit. But here what happens is the Chabadnik's experience, even though he's seeing other people do something different, that doesn't affect his habit because the cue is totally different. He has a different identity cue. Okay? And so here we're going to be talking about an identity where we have a different model besides creating a habit of one thing which leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to another. But we have a whole set, okay, of physiological responses, of thoughts, of feelings, of ideas, of dress, all of scenario situations. Okay, it's a reason why just by walking into a certain place, I can be inspired. It can be easier for me to learn in a base medrash than it is for me to learn when I'm in the house. Partly because my identity, the entire set of emotions, associations when I'm in one place is different than the entire set of emotions and feelings in another place. Okay? This is another piece or another model for us to hold on to, which is going to come into play when we get Lamaisa on ideas of how to work on habits. Okay? So we had the three models of linear cues. Okay? Repeating an action. Okay? Number one. Number two, observing and watching a certain pattern. And number three was visualizing and imagining a certain pattern over and over. And now we have a fourth, which is slightly different, which is not linear, which is an entire set of connections between different emotions, behaviors, feelings, thoughts, physiological responses, which all come together. And the minute I walk in, I by nature act in a certain way of those neurons. All of those neurons are now lighting up together. Okay? It's not one which lights another, it's that an entire set of neurons light together. Okay? And with that, we finish up the VAD for today. Looking forward to the next one. Kol Tov.